Podcast City Network.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 145 of the Nest Podcast. I'm your boy Brandon, joined as always by my co-host Zach. Zach, what's up, dude?
How's it going?
Dude, it's going. Like I was saying before we came on live, it's been a wild day today. I've been busy from the time I woke up until the time we sat down to do this podcast. So, man, sorry if I'm not as prepared as I normally am. It's been hectic for me today.
Here we go.
Here we go, though. It's 7 o'clock. That means the lights are on. The live button is up in the corner, and it's time to go. It's Nest Podcast time. And I want to start off talking about something that's kind of been circulating through the news for the past couple weeks. And if you remember back whenever we had Adam on the show a couple weeks ago, we kind of broke some news, even though no one really knew it at the time. Whenever I told everybody, like, hey, something's brewing here in Jacksonville with this whole Tim Tebow news. I'm hearing some rumblings. You know, Urban Meyer is now his next door neighbor. There's some talks that he's been being brought in as a tight end for some workouts. Lo and behold, they are actually signing that 1-year deal with Tim Tebow to be a tight end for the Jags. And that came with a ton of heat. It seems like either people love the idea or they absolutely hate it. Why do you think that there's so much vitriol with that decision to bring him in? And why is there so much animosity and negative attention around that?
I'd say a lot of people probably think he's washed up and that he's done. His football career was over with years ago, and then he went on to play baseball. This might be just seen as like a move just to either gain some viewership or just like a friendly deal that Urban Meyer made. I don't know if people. I mean, I guess people kind of do hate Tim Tebow. They've kind of given him crap for forever now. I don't really understand why. I mean, he is what he is. I don't really know. It is weird that he does get a lot of heat.
Yeah, I think something is funny that you said about people just do seem to hate Tim Tebow. I think one of the phrases that I saw on Twitter this week was punchable face. He has a very punchable face. And I mean, I get it. I don't like the Florida Gators. I absolutely couldn't stand the man when he was the quarterback of the Gators. He went on to the NFL, didn't have the most stellar career as a quarterback, went and tried to play Major League Baseball for a while, and now he's back in the NFL as a tight end. We'll see what happens with it. What I think is maybe he's not being brought in to be a stud tight end. Maybe he's not being brought in to be an all-pro football player. But what the Jags are doing with signing Tim Tebow is trying to get a culture change in Jacksonville. They're trying to bring in a guy who has been a winner in the past. He's been a winner in college. He won a playoff game in Denver. He didn't really play baseball, but made it to AAA with the Mets organization. The dude is a proven winner. He's in great shape. I think he's going to be fine as far as that goes. And he's a good locker room guy. He has embraced the Urban Meyer culture. He's embraced what that coach is all about. And I think that's just an extension of the head coach with Tim Tebow. And I think that's going to go a long way with some of these younger guys that are on the Jags roster.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now that you mention it, it kind of does seem like they're trying to put up Urban Meyer's brand of football there in Jacksonville. And I guess what better way to do that than to bring in a guy who obviously knows Urban very well and won for him.
The face of Urban Meyer football, if you will.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, that does make sense. I think they probably do need a culture change. They need something other than, even though he's fun and entertaining, they need something other than the Minshew mania that was the biggest thing in Jacksonville there for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Minshew Mania, it ran its course. People kind of stopped caring about it after so long. And you know what? It was fun. They got a few wins out of the deal, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think it is time for an entire culture change. They had the whole run with guys like Jalen Ramsey, who he was a diva when he was in Jacksonville. Yannick Ngakoue, he was the same way, demanding more money, eventually demanding his way out of town. They've had a lot of that under the Doug Marrone era. And I think, Tony Khan, Shad Khan, and now Urban Meyer, they're just ready for a change. They're ready for winning football in Jacksonville.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And maybe Tim Tebow's a piece of that. Who knows? Well, I guess we'll see.
Right. And even if he's not, it's a 1-year deal, and you can kind of parade him around and, hey, Tim Tebow's here and blah, blah, blah. And of course, we're all going to talk about it. I'm sure all the talking heads are going to talk about it too. And then you can move on.
And he's not even guaranteed to make the team. He's not even guaranteed to make the roster whenever they break from camp. So who's to say he's not just there to be a mentor for these young guys as they go through mini camps, as they go through their rookie camps and rookie training and all that stuff, trying to get them acclimated to the NFL.
Yeah. Give a few good speeches, kind of set the tone and show everyone the expectations of the team or whatever. And then, he can just be like a leader or whatever, like a mentor.
Yep. I'm anxious to kind of see what our listeners think about that. If you have an opinion about Tim Tebow in the NFL, let us know in the comments, because I am intrigued by what you guys have to say. I do want to hear what you guys think about it. And if you hate it, let us know why. If you love it, go ahead and tell us. If you agree with he's just going to be a good piece to help be an extension of Urban Meyer's coaching staff, then, let us know that we're on the right track with something. But Zach, we were talking before we even came on about how both the Cardinals and the Red Sox have the night off. And that actually goes in line with a question that we got on Twitter this week. And that was, what do you guys watch when you aren't watching sports? So it's kind of the perfect time to answer this question. What do you watch whenever the Cardinals aren't on and there's no football? Because obviously it's not football season right now. It's not a Saturday night UFC pay-per-view night. So what are you going to be watching whenever we're done here?
I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch a lot of random stuff on there. I like a lot of cooking channels and just random stuff. YouTube is full of really good stuff. I'm not a huge TV guy. There's a few TV shows that I like to watch, but I'm not a just flip on the TV and watch whatever kind of guy. I find it boring these days.
For those of you that don't know, Zach is actually a pretty good cook, and he makes a lot of pretty fancy dishes, and recently has gotten more and more into barbecuing and things like that. So that's one of his little hobbies or passions, if you will. For me, I know my wife and I, we watch a lot of workplace comedies and stuff like that. Like we love watching The Office. We've probably seen it 52 times.
Right.
Parks and Rec is great. We also recently have been watching Superstore, which if you haven't seen it, it's pretty funny. It's basically set in a superstore, a big Walmart-esque environment where the employees pretty much just are insane.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, Zach, of that time that we had that brilliant idea to come up with a workplace comedy based in a military unit. And we were going through and we made out our cast list. We had everything all set up. It was perfect, only to find out that we're not the first ones to come up with that idea.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I remember that very clearly. That was so funny. We thought we just had this amazing idea that no one's ever thought of, and lo and behold, someone else has thought of it, which is funny. And you mentioned Superstore. That's one show. My wife is the exact opposite. She watches like literally every show ever, and that's one that she watched that I would catch a few episodes of. It's pretty damn funny.
Oh, it's hilarious. We got a comment. Have you guys seen Falcon and Winter Soldier? I've seen a few episodes of it, but to be honest, Marvel doesn't really catch my attention like that. It has good action. The first episode specifically, when he's flying his little jetpack all throughout the little canyons and all that stuff, it was cool. But I just don't get into the Marvel storyline. I have already been caught up on the Bad Batch, though, if you're interested in any Star Wars stuff, because the Bad Batch is a new animated thing that Star Wars put out, and it's pretty good too. I like it a lot.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't caught Falcon and Winter Soldier either. I liked what was the one that they just finished? WandaVision. That one was pretty cool. It was like a unique story in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, kind of trippy from what I hear.
Yeah, and it's funny that we mentioned the Marvel cinematic universe here. I never really was big on it either, but for whatever reason, me and my wife decided to tackle all the movies in order of release so that we could just see them as everyone else did. So we watch maybe one or two a weekend, depending on what we have going on or whatever. And I think we just finished. Yeah, we just finished Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And it was good. It was really good. They're hit or miss. Some of them are really boring, and the only thing that's cool is the action.
Yeah.
And some are cool. Some have really interesting storylines that you didn't expect. So,
I mean, now that they have so many Marvel movies and things like that, and that they all tie in the whole Marvel universe, I guess it is worth going back and watching it in, whatever order you decide to watch it in. I think, honestly, watching it chronologically is probably the way that makes the most sense.
right.
In the way of the story. You watched it in the way of how they were released in theaters and stuff like that, which, I mean, that's cool too, if that's how you want to view it. But at least you can piece it all together now, how the story all adds up. I've seen onesies and twosies of these movies. So when I see it, it's like, I don't get who this is, where he came from, what his backstory is. I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
So it can be a little bit confusing to me.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's go ahead and get into it. We named this episode tonight Sliding Bad, and that also goes along with one of our things that we're going to be putting out in our new store, and it's a Breaking Bad inspired logo for a new t-shirt. So be on the lookout for that. The link for the merch is in the description below, so you can check that out. But one of the things that has been very bad this season has been the umpires. And it seems like every year we say that umpires are terrible, that one of these umpires just stands out worse than the other. But 2021 has been historically bad, right?
Absolutely.
And I mean, we've seen guys like, your normal guys, Angel Hernandez, Joe West, these guys that everyone knows their names, they suck. But let's see, what's Brad saying? They have stock in robo umps. That might be true. They may actually have stock in the software behind the robo umps. So they're being so bad that it's just making them want the robo umpires even more so that they can profit off it. That's not a bad idea there. But one of the things that I saw this weekend that really sucked in the way of umpires is the Dodgers were up 7-0 over the Marlins. The Dodgers pitching coach was ejected in the second inning for arguing balls and strikes because the home plate umpire was missing on average by about 2.5 inches per miss. That's pretty significant. 2.5 inches off the plate is clearly a ball, but he's calling it a strike. The pitching coach gets a little bit upset at it, and then he gets tossed. A couple innings later, Matt Beatty, left fielder for the Dodgers, he gets ejected for arguing balls and strikes after taking a questionable third strike, and he turned and told the umpire, "You're bad." That's what got him tossed. He straight up told the truth and got kicked out of the game. So, Zach, I got to ask, what do you think about these umpires, and should they be able to just kick a guy out of the game for arguing the fact that they were wrong?
It sucks. It really sucks to see. And, they hold all the cards or whatever. They control the game and stuff. And I get that somebody has to be the one in charge, but it sucks when they're the judge, the jury, and the executioner. They decide everything. And sure, there's the third base umpire and the other guys out in the field, but they're not going to go against a home plate umpire's call. It's weird because they have all the power, and it doesn't really matter if they suck or not. It's their decision to make, and you see this a lot. You see if a guy gets angry, and if a manager gets angry, they get tossed if the umpire decides to toss them. And who's supposed to call them out on that? Because like I said, the other umpires on the field aren't going to say anything. MLB is probably not going to say anything, and it's just one of those things that goes unchecked. And here we are we're basically on the brink of robot umpires because these guys can't do their job. And I'm not saying they have to be perfect, but they're pretty bad. And there's guys that are notoriously bad and they still have a job, and it's just weird. I don't get it.
Yeah, it is terrible. And you mentioned some of those guys that still have a job even though they're terrible. It makes me think, why haven't they brought up anybody new? Surely MLB sees that these guys are missing very bad calls. I know Ryan said it's the human error. It's all part of the game. It happens. Both sides are affected by it. But if your team's the one that's affected by it, it tends to hurt you a little bit more. That being said, Shohei Ohtani, he hit a home run in Sunday night's game against the Red Sox that a lot of people are saying may have been a foul ball, but it was ruled a home run. I know Brad from the Pesky Report had Rob Bradford from WEEI on their show today, and I am anxious to listen to that one to see if he asked Bradfo any of those questions about what he saw from his perspective at Fenway Park, looking down that line, if that ball was fair or foul. Because from the camera view that I saw, it was very questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And even live, whenever the umpires were watching, it kind of took them a second before they waved their finger and said, all right, yep, it's a home run. And that was the deciding home run in the game. That was in the top of the ninth inning, a little bloop from Mike Trout, and then that questionable home run from Shohei. And that's the difference between the Red Sox win and the Red Sox loss. So it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's also weird that they don't go to the replay more. If you have replay, all the other sports use it. Just instantly go to replay and get it over with. We always talk about how baseball games last forever and whatever. If it's a tough call, just immediately say, I want a replay, and go straight to it, and then figure it out, and you'll know definitively, or as definitively as you can, and move on.
Brad said that Bradfo said that it was a fair ball, so I have no gripe on it then, even though still sucks that the Red Sox didn't complete the sweep. I'll still take 2 out of 3. Doesn't change the fact that the umpires have been egregious this season and so on.
Right.
Of course, for you, something else that happened on Sunday night that was, I guess, bad in your eyes was the slide of Manny Machado that everybody is talking about.
Yep.
And I know we kind of have a history of not liking Manny Machado around here for a number of reasons. We think that he is a dirty player, that he does have tendencies to bend the rules and potentially try to injure people whenever he gets the opportunity. So anytime a slide like this happens and your guy goes flying up in the air, of course you're going to get a little bit bent out of shape about it. Zach, do you think that it was a dirty slide?
I've since conceded from our text earlier today. It's definitely not like dirty, but I would say it's murky. I don't like it. It's weird. I'm not a fan.
For those that are watching live on the broadcast, I'm showing the clip right now of the play that we're talking about. And, Manny he's actually running from first base, trying to get to second base. The way that the second baseman, Tommy Edman, Edman, the way that he has to play the ball takes him right into the path that Machado is running in. So you pretty much are left with, he's either going to have to stop and stand there and potentially take a sidearm throw right off of his teeth, keep running and shoulder check him, or slide to try to avoid as much contact as possible. There you see that after the slide happens, he tries to help him back up, make sure he's okay. I don't think there's any ill intent, any maliciousness to this at all. We had a good little debate about it this morning via text, and And you at first seemed like you were pretty adamant that you were ready to go and get blood. You were out for blood this morning.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like we said, when you see Manny Machado has slid into someone, you just immediately think, oh, well, it was dirty because he's done it 17 times before. Just ask Dustin Pedroia. And I guess this is, what else is he going to do? I said maybe he could have juked out of the way, but then he would have been automatically out for not being on the baseline anyway. My thing was he wasn't going to miss that tag. He was going to get tagged. There's no way you can miss that. So I guess the best thing to do is slide, but it sucks. He could have. I don't know. It's a crappy situation either way you look at it. But I do agree. I don't think this was malicious. I think this was just one of those things like, what do I do here? And that's what he decided to do. So what are you going to do?
Now you mentioned Dustin Pedroia. Here's the famous slide from 2017 that I believe probably did have some intent. I don't think he meant to hurt him as bad as he did end up hurting him. Of course, this eventually led to the end of Dustin Pedroia's career. But you see here, the spike kicks up and hits him right in the side of the knee. Bad day for all Red Sox fans right there. Yep. So that one I do feel like had a little bit more intent behind it.
His leg was kicked up pretty high, and I think he knew what was going to happen there. Normally when you slide, you want to keep your foot down, one, to keep it on the base, but yeah, that's a bit more egregious for sure.
I think he realized that he was out, so he was like, well, I'm going to at least take you out of this game, maybe draw a little bit of blood with my spikes. But what he ended up doing was tearing up dude's knee for the rest of his career. Pedroia tried to play on it for several years, kept trying to rehab, had multiple surgeries, and eventually retired at the beginning of, well, not even the beginning of the season, during the offseason before the season started. So It's been a long road for Pedroia after that slide in 2017. So I'm glad that we've come to an accord that we don't think that the slide against the Cardinals was dirty, that we think that it was just good, hard baseball. And, that's textbook break up and double play right there is what he did. So,
right. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, honestly. I'd like to see if I could just like recreate that scenario with a different player, with somebody who doesn't have the history of Machado, just to see what they would do. And if they do the same thing, then that's great, but it always has that history to it. When Manny does something like that, you kind of have a thought in your head, oh, this guy's done this before. We've seen this kind of stuff from him before, so this is no different. And I think that's just a stigma that's going to stick with him for a while, unless he quits doing stuff like this.
Like I told you earlier, if it were virtually any other player in the league that made that play, it wouldn't have been a talking point at all. We wouldn't be talking about it right now. It would have been just, oh, that was a good hard play. Cool. Broke up the double play. Good on you.
Right.
But because, to your point, it is Manny Machado, there's always that question. I hope that Ryan Randall, the coach, is still in here now, because the next bad situation that we need to talk about is the situation that the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers have found themselves in this offseason, where it's pretty much bad for everyone, and it's getting worse by the day. I don't know how much you've been paying attention to this, but this has been pretty much all the NFL talking heads have been talking about for weeks now, because it's the NFL offseason. There's not really much to talk about. You can talk about the draft, but that only goes so far, because you've got these guys that have never played an NFL snap, and you're trying to evaluate them against college guys. So it is what it is. That's a wild take right there, Brad.
Brad doesn't ever watch baseball, so
football.
Or that's right, football.
So he says,
I would take that with a grain of salt.
He says Rodgers is going to become a Viking, which I guess following in Brett Favre's footsteps makes sense. But other than that,
he'd have to be a Jet first.
That's true. That's true. He would have to go to the Jets, and what a wild end of career Brett Favre had. But that actually is part of the issue here with Aaron Rodgers, though, is because of the end of Brett Favre's career, when Aaron Rodgers was sitting on the bench waiting to take over that spot. The Packers moved up in the 2020 draft to draft Jordan Love as quarterback, seemingly as the future quarterback of that team. That had to make Rodgers get that little feeling in the pit of his stomach, that little, oh, is this deja vu? Is this happening to me now? Am I in Brett Favre's shoes and they've just replaced me with this guy? So he went out, won the MVP in the 2020 NFL season, took his team back to the NFC Championship, had an amazing season with Devontae Adams, had great connections with Tunyon and some of the other guys. Aaron Jones went out there and had 1,000 yards rushing season. So the offense was clicking. Everything was working fine. No reason for them to even have any kind of animosity in the offseason. And then, of course, draft day 2021, it was dropped. The bomb was dropped by Ian Rappaport that Rodgers wasn't happy. And that started this whole downward spiral that now we're talking about the potential of Aaron Rodgers leaving town. And even if he isn't traded, he's saying, I don't want to come back and play for them. So, one, do we think he's going to retire? Two, is this hurting his legacy? Is this making him out to be a big crybaby? Is this making him out to be that diva that everybody has said that he is and has been for his entire career? Or who is this really worse for? Rodgers, the Packers, or Devontae Adams?
Yeah, and we've said that before, that man, Devontae Adams is probably not super happy with his situation, because he's either going to have a disgruntled Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love, or who knows what they're going to do. Didn't they pick up Red Rocket? Or they picked up somebody? No, that was Blake.
The Bears got Andy Dalton. Yeah, they did just recently sign Blake Bortles, which I mean that pickup in and of itself tells me one thing and one thing clearly. They are not confident in Jordan Love.
Which is so strange, because we said this last week, I think. He hasn't even stepped onto the field. Like, give him a few chances on some preseason games. Let him play. I don't understand why they've made up their mind so heavily already. He hasn't even played for him. I mean, I don't understand what they are expecting from this guy. But nonetheless, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what I do here, because like you said, people are going to think he's a diva if he decides to sit out. And it doesn't seem like they're going to be trading him. From what I've seen, that they haven't said that they are looking to trade him. So what are you going to do? Are you going to sit out as a 36-year-old and expect someone to bow down to your every move when you were basically shown the Packers' intentions when they drafted Jordan Love? And this is the way that they've operated. Like you said, it happened to Brett Favre when they drafted Aaron Rodgers. They drafted him a few years early so that he could learn and so that he could pick up the ball when it was time to move on. It might be a little early, and I think Aaron definitely has a few years left in him, but nonetheless, this is what the Packers decided to do. And I don't know. I don't know what to do here, because I definitely think he could go to another team and be successful. But the road to get there is going to be pretty difficult if they do end up not trading him.
Yeah. And, to kind of go off of that, the Packers may be more inclined to trade him than they originally stated and we once thought. This week, Tom Silverstein of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel revealed that the Packers have an asking price for Aaron Rodgers. It's steep, and the price would include multiple future first-round draft picks, probably a day 2 draft pick, which would be a second or a third-round draft pick, and a starting caliber player. Green Bay would also require that any trading partner would include a quarterback in the deal. So you've got to give up a couple first rounds, maybe a second or a third, and a starting caliber quarterback in this deal.
Jeez.
So that, to me, makes the trading partners a lot less of who might be out there. And it kind of narrows it down to only 2 places, in my opinion. You've got the Denver Broncos, who are sitting on Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. And you've got the Las Vegas Raiders, who are sitting with Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota. those are teams that have quarterbacks on their roster that they could give up and potentially have the draft capital to be able to make this kind of a deal. If it happens, this will be one of the blockbuster moves of the entire probably decade, because Aaron Rodgers, 36 years old, he could still play another 5-6 years. It's not inconceivable to think that he could go off somewhere else and have a good second half of his career with another team.
Yeah, absolutely.
This isn't a Peyton Manning situation where he's only going to be there for a couple years max, or a Tom Brady situation where he's presumably only going to be there for a couple years max, even though the Bucks are saying if he wants to play till he's 50, they're cool with it. But
right,
we'll see what happens with all of that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that is a very likely scenario. And I did see some sort of article or whatever that said that John Gruden has said that he'll do freaking anything to get a hold of Aaron Rodgers. And it makes a lot of sense. Of course, John Gruden wants a big time name to play for him so that they can go on a Super Bowl run. And who better to do that than Aaron Rodgers? And I agree. I think he could spend 5-6 years, maybe more, playing and potentially in Super Bowl contention with some other team. Now, it may work out, it might not, depending on the pieces around him. I don't know if the Raiders would be smart enough to kind of keep what they have that's good and also give Aaron what he needs, which is obviously good wide receivers. I don't know. Time will tell, but it's definitely seems like a likely scenario.
One thing that I do kind of factor in here is that asking price for Aaron Rodgers is probably so high. One, because he is the reigning MVP of the league. And two, I think the Packers know that if they deal Aaron Rodgers at the end of the 2021 season, they also are going to lose Davante Adams.
Right.
Because he came out and said that if they do get rid of Rodgers, then he is going to consider playing elsewhere next year in free agency. So they would ultimately be losing out on a future Hall of Fame quarterback and a potential Hall of Fame wide receiver by making this move. So it's definitely weighing on their shoulders.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about because, I mean, of course, I would definitely tend to agree with Davante Adams that you probably don't want to stick around.
You don't want to be part of a rebuild.
Yeah, no. And I think he deserves a good contract after his year. After 2020, I mean, he played insanely, and he was basically one of Aaron Rodgers' only targets. Crazy athlete. He's a crazy athlete, so I think he deserves a good look by a team for sure. Could he potentially follow Aaron Rodgers to wherever he ends up? I don't know.
I mean, that would be something. Coach is in here saying that the Pack wouldn't lose Adams. If Rodgers isn't there, I don't think Adams is going to be there either. They have big leverage with the franchise tag. Yeah, I mean that could be an option if they do decide to put that tag on him. But the money is something that he can get from any other team in the league.
Yeah, I was going to say if he doesn't want to take the franchise tag, I'm sure he would be fine going to free agency and finding a deal with somebody.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on. I talked briefly about the Red Sox and that game 3 against the Angels where Shohei Ohtani hit the home run in the top of the 9th. But over the weekend, the Red Sox took 2 out of 3 from the Angels. So it was cool to get to see Mike Trout actually play a game of baseball that wasn't at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So that's a plus. It was also kind of cool to see my pick for MVP, Shohei Ohtani, get not 1, but 2 home runs in the series. And that's kind of funny that he has 2 home runs in just that series alone, because in his career, Mike Trout only has 1 home run at Fenway Park.
Wow.
So Shohei's already one-upped Mike Trout when it comes to hitting at Fenway. Makes you think that maybe Mike Trout just isn't good under the bright lights.
It's possible. I mean, how many times has he even been under the bright lights? It seems like he's just playing AL West teams constantly, and they never make the playoffs. So you could be right.
Yeah, I mean, he's never won a playoff game. He's played in 3 playoff games in his career, and they've lost all 3. So
right.
It's wild. The Red Sox did have the long ball working for them all weekend long, all 3 games. And the Friday's game in the 4-3 victory, we saw home runs from Hunter Renfroe and Bobby Dahlback, the bottom of the order, getting it going. I've been saying that if that bottom of the lineup gets hot, then watch out, because the rest of that lineup is probably one of the best in baseball. So if that bottom 7, 8, 9 holes can start getting hot, dude, this is going to be a wild ride all season long. Saturday, we saw an eruption in a 9-0 win. We saw home runs by Verdugo, Bogarts, and Devers. Devers went bridge again on Sunday, and also our backup catcher, Kevin Plawecki, the Plexter, went bridge. So been a lot of home runs. The Red Sox bats have woken up in a big way, and I hope today's day off doesn't kind of kill that momentum, because they've been swinging.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always weird with day offs because you never know like what somebody you cut off somebody's daily routine or whatever. You cut somebody's mojo, and then it just kind of dies off from there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. On the other side of the coin, not a great weekend for the old Cardinals. We got swept by the Padres, and going into this, man, I thought this is an easy ride. This is an easy series. They're missing half of their stars. Tatis is out. Eric Hosmer's out. Profar is out. We should be all right. Apparently not. That team was for real, and they came to play, and they did, and they played well. Pitching staff for the Cardinals couldn't get it done. Adam Wainwright got lit up. KK Kim on Sunday didn't do super great. I think he went like 4 and some change or whatever. And the bullpen just couldn't survive. I mean, they walked so many people. I think Vasgersian said they walked like 27 batters or something like that all series. That's not good. It's not doing yourself any favors at all.
Yeah, no, that's giving away runs and giving away base runners the entire time. I'm seeing some breaking news coming across my timelines. The Astros announced that they're increasing to max capacity for fans starting on May 25th. And the Red Sox are also announcing that they're going up to max capacity in May 29th, I believe is what it said.
Nice.
Yeah, we got stands that are going to be packed. It's almost like this whole COVID thing is over now, right?
Yeah, it pretty much is. I think once the vaccines kind of rolled out in mass, they kind of started rolling stuff back. I don't know what your state's thing is like, but the mask mandates for all, I guess yours was like last year. They said nah.
After the 2 weeks mandatory shutdown in 2020, we were like, nah, we're opening back up, baby. This is Florida. Yeah. We got theme parks to run.
Yeah, but a lot of places for fully vaccinated people, they're getting rid of the mask mandates and all that stuff, and some stores are doing the same. And I guess there's really no way to prove that you have your vaccination other than your little card, and I don't think they're going to make people show that card. So I guess they're just going off the honor system. So it's probably just going to turn into the Wild West here in a few weeks.
We did it. We won. We beat COVID.
Yep. In typical American fashion, we declare victory way too early.
Mission accomplished.
Man,
remember that the old George Bush on the on the back of the Navy ship right off of Coronado.
Yep, absolutely.
Declaring mission accomplished in the Middle East.
Yep, classic.
Wild times.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, but I did catch a little bit of the Sunday night baseball game against the Padres. And, for what it's worth, the Cardinals were hanging in there. Arenado's had a pretty stellar season. Of course, that was my pick for NL MVP. I thought that he was going to bring it. And he's been pretty good in his first season there in St. Louis. I know you guys are definitely excited to have him. And if you can get everything else kind of going at the same time, there's still a lot of baseball to play. We still got 70% of the season left, and you guys are sitting there still with a 2-game lead in the NL Central. So you're fine. Getting swept sucks, sure, but you're fine. You'll be all right.
Yeah, it happens. You can't win every series, and that's why there's 162 games.
I've got a lot of buddies at work that are diehard Braves fans, and they always tell me about like how terrible things have been for them and all that stuff. But I just got reminded today they're only two games out of first place, and they're playing the first place Mets starting tonight. So if they can win that series, then they move right on up into a tie for first place. So nothing to be scared of, and they don't have to play DeGrom because I think he's still out hurt.
Right. Yeah.
That's always a huge plus whenever you get to avoid that guy.
Yeah. No kidding.
Let's see. UFC 262. Did you catch any of that?
I caught basically the highlights of the championship fight and saw that a guy who you and I have been talking about for a while now, Charles Oliveira, is now the new champion.
My boy, that dude, like, I became a fan whenever he roughed up Tony Ferguson. And it wasn't because I hate Tony Ferguson, because I'm a big Tony guy, but the way that he did it, he absolutely dominated Tony Ferguson at Tony's game. And it was like, man, this dude is the real deal. He's primed and ready. And that TKO victory, I mean, it put him up there. He's now the UFC lightweight champ. Of course, that was the belt that Khabib vacated. So it was a vacant title at the time. He didn't have to beat a champion to get it. So it is what it is. Now he has to go out and defend it and prove that he is the champion of the division. And that's a tough division. Who do you think is going to be the first one that he's going to have to match up against?
That's a good question. Jan, maybe? I don't really know. It's interesting because, like you said, Khabib dominated for so long that he just kind of ran through the whole division. And then we just knew that Khabib was the best, and we don't really know too many other people. I think it might be like a new era for the lightweight division now that Khabib's basically gone. I don't think Khabib's going to come back. Who knows? But I think definitively we have like a new set of fighters to focus on now that we have a new champion, and there's just a lot of new faces around that weight division.
Yeah, I could see Justin Gaethje getting in there, getting a title shot eventually. He's deserving of it, and Connor's going to be lurking at some point because that's the money fight that Dana wants to throw together, is putting McGregor in a title fight once again. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, and I think it was at the end of the fight, Oliveira said, "Connor, go fight Dustin Poirier. And then after that, we'll talk," or whatever. I think he knows that's coming, and I think it'll be obviously a huge payday for him. But like you said, I think inevitably, if not this year, definitely next year, you're going to see Connor fight for another lightweight championship fight. Whether he deserves it or not, they're going to throw that together.
Yep. We mentioned Tony Ferguson, of course. He also fought on the UFC 262 card, and at this point, Tony is a shell of the former fighter that he once was. He lost another fight, this time by decision, to Benel Dariush. Did I say that right?
Something like that. Dariush, I think, maybe.
Yeah, whatever. He won by decision, beat up on Tony. I hate to tell a fighter that they need to give it up. They need to go ahead and hang him up. But at this point, do you think it's that time for Tony Ferguson?
Yeah, 100%. I think that fight with Justin Gaethje really showed you that he's not the Tony that he once was, because for that fight he was just absolutely geared up for one specific opponent. That didn't work out, and he had to change gears and fight a totally different fighter, and he just could not keep up. And this is a guy who has some of the best cardio, some of the best takedown defense, some of the best ground game. Obviously, he's a disciple of Eddie Bravo in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he just couldn't get it done against Justin Gaethje. It sucks to see, like you said. He's a hell of a fighter, and he really did get screwed on a number of fights. All those times where he was supposed to fight Khabib, and it just never worked out. It sucks that will never be a fight that we get to see.
Yeah, that one's weird though. Like 5 times they made the fight and they didn't ever step foot in the octagon. There was always something that happened, whether it was Tony tripping over the cable and tearing his ACL, or Khabib taking on an injury or whatever. Like it then COVID happened and that messed it up, and just one thing after another, and they never got to lock it up, and that sucks. But at this point, I'm kind of glad they didn't, because Khabib would have probably marked him, but especially later in his career. But
right.
it might have been interesting earlier, but that style that he's always brought to the octagon, it's one of those things that isn't ever going to be sustainable, and it has to end sometime. And it's clearly, I think this is the third fight in a row that he's lost now.
Yeah,
because it was the Gagey, then Oliveira, and then now this one. So three fights in a row that he's lost.
Yeah, it sucks. And one of my favorite fights of Tony's is whenever he fought Anthony Pettis. And they both just left everything out there and went nuts and just had a hell of a fight. It was just awesome to see. And I don't even care who won that one. Both sides really just put it all out there. And that's the kind of fighter that Tony is he every single fight is a war for him, and he's going to war. And man, I wish things could have lined up better for him so that he could actually be a legitimate champion instead of that interim belt thing that he got for the vacancy and all that stuff. It sucks to see such a talented guy not get the respect he deserves.
Yeah, I agree. But, at least at one point in his career, he was able to call himself a champion, even though it was that interim, because he was definitely a championship fighter. And, it is what it is. He coined the CSO phrase, and it's something that we've kind of latched onto for a new project that we're going to be starting. So I'm excited to eventually announce that. I'm kind of teasing it now. We haven't quite set a date, but stay tuned, because pretty soon we're going to expand to another show per week where we focus on something that a lot of you are going to have a very specific interest in. I'll kind of leave it at that. Let's clear the benches a little bit there. Zach, we've got some news that's out there in the world that, it's worth mentioning here on the show. The first of that is Albert Pujols released from the Angels and signed with the LA Dodgers. What was your first thought whenever you saw the news that he was going to be a Dodger?
I just thought, oh God, another player going to the freaking Dodgers, as if they need another one.
See, it didn't really make sense to me, though, because he asked to be released from the Angels because he wasn't being used as an everyday player in Anaheim. He wanted to be able to play 140 games a year or whatever it is, presumably so that he can try to get as close to 650, maybe try to get closer to where he can justify coming back for a couple more seasons to get to 700 home runs. He's at 630 something now, I think. So he's got quite a ways to go, and he's slowed down considerably. But then he goes to the Dodgers, who will just essentially use him as a bench player. I don't think he's going to be a starter in LA.
No way.
I can't imagine with the depth that they have on that lineup that they're clamoring to bring in Albert Pujols and plug him in the lineups. So it's kind of a wild decision. And the Dodgers can't utilize a DH this year, so it's not like he's being plugged into that hole. I thought for sure he was going to end up on an American League squad, but that's kind of weird for me.
Yeah, very strange move. I wonder if he realized that there were no teams out there that were going to give him a everyday spot or something close to every day. And he decided, you know what, instead of moving my family all the way around, I'm just going to stay in LA and ride this thing out as long as I can. It seems like he couldn't get what he wanted. So he decided to take whatever he could. And I guess the Dodgers were willing to bring him on. But yeah, weird move. I don't expect him to see him play very much. He's going to be maybe a pinch hitter for the batter or something, or for the pitcher rather.
Which is wild. Yeah. It's wild that you would leave a place that didn't want to play you every day to go be a pinch hitter. But I guess that's the world that we live in now.
Yep.
Also on the breaking news side of things today, I noticed that your boy Giancarlo Stanton has been placed on the 10-day IL. It's that time of year again whenever Stanton starts to get hurt, and he's now on the IL. Mm-hmm. So
hamstring, I'm sure.
Quad strain. Pretty close.
Jeez.
Same thing every year with him. Yeah.
It's weird that nobody's been able to figure that out or by now. He gets hurt damn near every year, and it's always the same thing. And you and I have talked before. He's got a real closed off stance. How is no one taking a look at that with all these analytics these days and say, hey, you know what? This might be causing your injury. He's swinging for the fences every time he steps up to the plate.
Yeah.
What else could it be?
Yeah, that he's got a torque back so far with that closed off stance that when he swings and it opens it all up in such a fast, jerky motion, and then he from that takes off trying to run down the first baseline, or whenever he's playing in the outfield, he's a liability out there trying to sprint for fly balls. This guy, he's made of glass. I mean, Stacy will come on here and tell us that his body looks great, but it's very, very, very fragile.
Yeah, for sure. It sucks to see. He's got really good talent, but he just can't figure it out.
Former MVP.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. Let's see. What else was happening in the news? Did you see anything else that's worth talking about, Zach?
No, I didn't. I think we covered the big stuff. Like we mentioned last week, J. Cole made his debut over there in Rwanda?
Yeah, for the Rwanda Patriots. How'd he do?
Yeah, he got 3 points. I saw. Yeah, he didn't do anything, but I did see that he made a free throw, and he made like a putback shot off of a rebound. Didn't do a whole lot apparently, but professional basketball player, I guess.
I guess if that's what we're calling it these days. I don't think he's going to make a big enough noise if he's only putting up 3 points a game to even come over and be in the NBA G League, but maybe it boosts some record sales for him or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I'm sure it was something fun to do, and we're all talking about it, and
Sure.
everyone's mentioning it along with listening to his album. So hey,
which I've heard that the new album is pretty good. I haven't gotten around to listening to it yet, but I've heard that it's pretty decent. So I might have to give it a shot.
I listened to it in its entirety as I was driving around for work on Friday, and it's very good. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. I'll give it a shot. I'll listen to it. Have you made much progress in MLB The Show?
I kind of fell off for a little bit, but I'm doing the two-way player thing, which is pretty fun because my thing is pitching because hitting is so ridiculously difficult, which is true to real life. But it is cool to be able to do both pretty well. Like, you're not the greatest hitter, but you can hit a lot better than if you were just a normal pitcher. So whenever you do go up, you actually have a chance. So it's fun. I definitely like that they added the two-way player scenario in there. But for the Xbox One version and like the last gen consoles, I guess you'd call them, it just seems like a rehash of every other The Show game we've had since you and I got them in 2018. Yeah,
I think 18 was the first year that we both went all out and got PlayStations and got The Show and all that stuff so that we could finally play a baseball game.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. It's just kind of been reskinned, and unless you're playing on the new generation consoles, you don't really have all the bells and whistles.
Yeah, and I guess that's what happens whenever consoles come to the end of their life cycle. The Xbox One is basically at the end of its life, and people that are lucky enough to find new consoles are picking them up and getting the new games, and you're starting to see games released for both, but you can only get X amount of whatever new stuff on the new consoles, and you're just probably going to see more and more of that until they just outright phase the old stuff out. But what sucks about that is just the low availability of consoles, all because of people are scalping them and then reselling them on eBay for $1,000 plus. I hate that. I hate that that's a thing these days. That was never a thing before. It was, you had to go to the store and get one. And if you wanted one day one, you had to stand in line and all that stuff. And now you can just set up bots online that automatically buy them whenever they go on sale. It's crazy. And I get it. There's nothing the companies can do about it, but boy, this is not a problem that I don't think very many people foresaw.
No, I don't think so either. And it's kind of cool when you get to take advantage of it though, because it's like, I remember standing in line at GameStop at midnight waiting for the latest drop and rushing home to pop it in your console so you could play it and all that stuff. But now you can just set it up, auto download, so that you don't even have to lose any sleep at all. You can set your alarm clock to wake up at 12:30, oh, hey, the game's downloaded and ready to go. Let's do this thing now, whatever.
Yep.
Before we go, I want to rehash the recently announced what is it called? The power rankings, MLB power rankings that came out.
Yeah.
And for the second week in a row, the Boston Red Sox are number 1. And that's cool for me. I'm pretty excited for that because they're still number 1 in the AL East. They're up by, I think, a game and a half right now over the Blue Jays, 2 games over the Rays and the Yankees. But what's surprising is that the Chicago White Sox jumped up to the 2 spot. And I looked into it. The reason that they moved up, because they're 8-2 in their last 10. Remember last week, the Cardinals were 8-2 in their last 10 and barely cracked the top 5. And this week, the Cardinals have dropped clear out of the top 5. And
they're 8 now, I think.
Yeah, they dropped down to 8. So
somebody at MLB doesn't make sense, or at their Instagram, or whoever's doing those power rankings.
Yeah, this one is from USA Today, so we'll see. They've got a few. The Dodgers are still sitting there at 3rd, which is surprising. Yeah, they've been a little bit better lately, but Corey Seager's now out for about 4 weeks with a fractured hand. So I think the Dodgers are kind of on a downward trajectory. So the Astros are back up in the top 5. Yeah, that's always good. The Athletics have dropped down to 5th. The Padres are out of the top 5 and 6th after coming off of sweep. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, very weird.
Who knows? I think these things are all just kind of silly.
Yeah, I think they have determined teams that are like always going to be in the mix unless they just completely lose a ton of games. And I think you see that with the White Sox. You see that with the Dodgers and the Yankees. Those are always going to be in that mix just because those are the teams that we all think and all of the press people think are going to eventually make it to the World Series. And they're just going to keep pumping them out there. I think what they failed to realize is that it's a lot shorter of a time frame for these power rankings than the entire season. Just because the Red Sox are number 1 doesn't mean that they can't be number 3 in 2 weeks or vice versa or whatever it might be.
Yep.
It's weird.
Yeah, they could be 5th place next week if they don't win a single game all week, which I hope I don't speak that to existence. That would suck for me, but whatever.
Right.
Anyway, I don't have anything else to talk about. We're just kind of rambling at this point. So, for all of you guys that have been paying attention to us and watching us on live, we appreciate you. Make sure you're paying attention because we are going to have a pretty big announcement coming up soon. And I want to give a huge shout out to our listeners from Canada. We see you guys tuning in every single week. I don't know who you are, but I want to get to know you because if you're listening to us from Canada, then you're all right in my book. So reach out to us on any of our social medias. Let us know who you are because I see constant downloads from Canada. I just don't know who it is.
I hope they're not bots.
If they are, then we've got bots from India that listen to us. We've got bots from all kinds of places that are listening to us, which is kind of wild in my opinion. Maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need to set up a huge bot bank somewhere to just download all of our stuff. And then we'll get moved up to the top of the charts on iTunes and all that stuff, get sponsors, start getting paid for this. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Is that how that works?
It seems like one way to do it, but I don't know if it would work like you think it would.
Maybe. Oh, we also had a listener from Mexico last week. So what's up with all you guys? Let us know who you are, what you like, and we'll see you guys back here next week. We're here every week. Peace.